This is Sam Stone with CBR here at Comic-Con International 2022 in San Diego, here with Tom King and Mitch Gerads to talk about Batman One Bad Day. Not one fine day, but one bad day, this time focused on everybody's favorite emerald-wearing supervillain, the Riddler. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
What an honor to be here, man. I read CBR every day. This means a lot to me.
I do too.
Oh, that'd be depressing if you did it, right? You're like, I'm a total Newsarama geek. That's just me.
No, Games Radar, but not that we talk about them. But so how did the opportunity to put the spotlight on Edward Nygma come about?
I mean, it was the simplest idea in the world, and I'm sure it was entirely related to the Batman movie being what it was and showing us sort of a different kind of a Riddler. Riddler kind of scare you in the night. And the pitch that was made to us by the company was, it's been 35, 40 years since the Killing Joke. Can we do it again? Can we find a Killing Joke for the Riddler? Something that does what had happened to the Joker, which before that, you know, the Joker was a fun character. He was funny. I mean, Neil Adams had redone him pretty well. Marsh Rogers had done him pretty well. But he wasn't what he became afterwards, which was this sort of pillar of the DCU, like the really crazy horror pillar of the DCU was built on top of him. Mm-hmm. Can we do that to Riddler? Can we put another pillar into the DCU, make him as important, as big, as frightening as the Joker is? So it was an easy assignment, so we're like, yeah, that's no problem.
One of the things that I find striking about the preview art, I mean, I think of what McKell did with the Riddler in War of Jokes and Riddles. This isn't that. This isn't like jacked sexual joke or Riddler. This is like scary, sallow Riddler. How is it developing the look for him in this more horror-bending story?
Yeah, so I took a lot of influence from
Man-friends.
I don't know what that was. My man-friends. That's my new word. You heard it here.
You are a writer. All right, I'm drawing the Man-friends comic.
But
coming 2022 from DC Comics.
Oh God.
Black label.
Yeah, Man-friends is total black label.
You could draw the
We're
hell
going
out of
beyond 17.
But there's an era of the animated series, The New Adventures of Batman, where the Riddler is bald and he's got the black eye makeup and he's just kind of creepy looking. And so I kind of ran with that. I took the best of every Riddler, which happens to be all the animated versions, because I can't really stand the comic versions. I think he looks lame. And he's my favorite villain, so I feel like that says enough. But yeah, so I did that, and then I draw in a more realistic style. So then all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's just like Michael Stipe with like creepier eye makeup. And so went along that road, and it really works, I think. He's a frightening dude.
Yeah. Can we expect him to sing Man on the Moon?
I hope so.
Okay. One of the things I find striking about The Killing Joke is it's a quiet book. There's a lot of just like scene-setting panels, be it like Batman cruising into the fairgrounds or walking through Arkham. Was that a similar kind of like rhythm that you wanted to take with the presentation of the story here?
Yeah, very much. I mean, if you've read my Batman run, it's bombastic. It's a superhero thing. There's lots of sort of fantasy. This was very much, a street level. This was an Ed Brubaker book. This was something quieter. Batman doesn't even appear until pretty far into the book when we sort of set up the horror of it all. This is not a superhero Batman story. This is a in the street noir Batman detective story. Mm-hmm. And it's quieter, but it's one of those things where people whisper so that when the scream comes, that's when you jump.
Yeah. Mitch, you've worked in Gotham before, of course. You know, you've one of my favorites is the image of Swamp Thing having tea with Bruce. What is it about this kind of like darker version of Gotham and grittier version of Gotham that you wanted to explore?
Yeah, so this is like my legit dream book. It always has been since I was a kid. Like a scary, smart Batman Riddler book. And so knowing that I was getting my dream book, I kind of just went along those lines and was like, all right, so how do I think my dream drawing Batman would be? How do I think my dream drawing Gordon would be? How do I think my dream Gotham would be? And so I just ran with all of those. And like with Batman, I love the idea of when he's Batman in the book, he's always covered in shadow. Like you never see his face, nothing. So he's just kind of like this walking shadow nightmare. But then when he's Bruce, it's, totally normal. And Gotham, I wanted to just make just grimy, just like that period when you're in New York and it's kind of everything looks a little sticky and there's a smell in the air. Like that's Gotham all the time for me.
So August.
Yeah. And so I just ran with all those things, and especially because I drew the whole book originally as if it was going to be black and white. So it was very noir and very heavy on shadow and stuff. And then I colored it after the fact. But yeah, it's just been this cool thing where I get to draw my exact vision for all these characters that mean so much to me.
Well, in terms of meaning so much, you both clearly have an affinity for the Riddler, and I find him to be one of the fun Batman villains. Like, there's always, like you were referencing the animated series, like whenever the Riddler showed up, you'd be like in virtual reality or something. It'd be a lot of fun. What is it about the Riddler for you guys as storytellers that you find so compelling?
I think you hit it exactly there. The idea of the Riddler is he's fun. Riddles are fun, right? And so our jumping off point for this whole thing was, what if riddles are fun, but the Riddler isn't? What happens when he gives up that sort of gimmick? Then who is he as a man? I mean, the book starts with sort of Riddler, kind of going up to Batman and being like, "Hey, Bruce, I was over at Dick's house the other day. He was sleeping, and I just kind of looked at him. I thought I could slash his throat, but I decided not to." And he's like, "This has been pretend. I've been pretending to do all this stuff, but I'm actually somebody else. I'm someone who's smarter than you." And Batman's never encountered that before.
Yeah. I mean, Mitch, you mentioned he's your favorite character.
Yeah, I mean, that was always my thing, is to what Tom's saying. Like, he's always been portrayed as the fun, kind of goofy guy. I remember when we were trying to figure out what this book was going to be, I was actually at Tom's house. We're like, oh, we'll watch his first appearance on the animated series to because we sat there talking all day of like, what is the Riddler's origin? We're like, I don't know.
Yeah, the Riddler has a bad origin. He doesn't even have the fall into the vat.
Yeah.
I mean, he has several origins. He has he has like the Jim Carrey mixer on his head origin.
Yeah.
And he has the animated series where he's like a bad coder for a video game company. But his in-continuity comics origin is he cheated on a test and then decided he liked riddles, which may be the worst origin for any villain. And so, but that was part of the challenge, was to turn that origin into something as creepy as falling into a vat of acid.
Is writing riddles and puzzles, is that challenging?
No. I mean, every story you write is a challenge. The first story I wrote for DC was a Grayson issue, and I wrote it backwards with a secret code. I think any storyteller is constantly writing riddles, because that's what a story is. A story sets up a question and answers it at the end. So, I mean, it's like, for you, interviewing must be okay. Like, for me, I would be terrible at it, but I do stories every single day of my life, and so that's the one thing I can do pretty well.
Yeah, I like to think I'm good at them. I'm good at them. Like, in terms of the pacing, you don't have to worry about chapter breaks. You don't have to. You guys get the room to breathe across 64 pages. How is it having doing that both in regards to art and the writing?
It was wild because I've done numerous 12-issue things with Tom, and I feel like this took longer than a 12-issue thing, and it's about 3 issues worth of space. But I think it's just because again, not to keep harping on it, but like, it's my dream book. I didn't want to let anything off the table, so I really put everything I had into it, and it's fun. Like, I really enjoyed not having that thing where like you kind of have to have a artificial ending each issue, when people buy them single issues. So it was nice to have one big story we could tell front to back and pace exactly how we wanted to without having to stop and start. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed doing a single thing, and I kind of want to do it again.
Get that on camera. Yeah, Tom, how's it writing to that pace?
My personal opinion, I think at this point I've written more Batman stories than anyone alive. But my favorite of the Batman I've written are the annuals. Annual 1, which is about his dog. Annual 2, which was about the Bat-Cat relationship. And Annual 4, which was about with Jorge Fornes, where we sort of covered the entire history of the character. And so to me, I was like, I want to channel the best Batman that I've ever done. And so I wanted to follow in that path of those 3 annuals. And so that's sort of where I started, like, treat this as an annual. An annual is 38 pages, it's 64. But that was the pacing I was going for. When you have that bigger room and you can do that big thing, like we did in the annual number 2 with Lee Weeks and Michael Lark, where you can tell a huge, epic, spanning story.
How is it? I mean, you guys have been working together for years. I'm thinking, Mr. Miracle. I'm thinking Strange Adventures, deconstructing Adam Strange. Like, how is it like working together on a much more kind of twisted, devious figure?
Well, Adam Strange turned out to be pretty twisted and devious.
yeah, on a planetary scale, sure.
And I mean, Darkseid's double dipping a carrot. That's pretty devious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Costanza would not abide.
No, Costanza would abide. Costanza would be all about it, man. He's like, finally, justification. Another double dipper.
Yeah. But yeah, how's it working together?
Tell him again that it's the best script I ever wrote.
It is. It is the best script you ever wrote. I don't need to keep saying that all the time.
He said the thing.
Every time someone comes up and says hi, Tom's like, "Tell him it's the best script you've ever written."
It's making Starbucks lots of fun.
Exactly. No, we work very well together, and it was kind of fun hearing Tom's ideas because originally we had come up with a slightly different idea that was worse. So I'm glad that they rejected it. But we pitched it, and immediately they were like, "No," because it was dark. Ooh, it was dark.
We're like, Batman never walks on his feet. He's a hand walker now. He's just doing this all the time. They're like, no, I don't. How was it doing anything? It's like because it's a riddle. It's a metaphor. They just didn't dig it. I don't know. I still think it's gonna be great. Hand walker Batman.
And I remember Tom called me. He's like, "It's a no-go. We got to figure out how to fix this." And that definitely helped, and we definitely found something we're way more proud of.
He walks on his feet.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, perfect. Oh, you're exhausting.
Well, on that note, this is Sam Stone here with CBR at Comic-Con International 2022 with Tom King, Mitch Gerads, Batman, One Bad Day, Riddler, coming soon. Guys, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
What a pleasure, and thank you for doing this. I write these very bizarre books that need to be sort of hand sold and need to be word of mouth. Like I don't know. That's how I made my career, and it works because of people like CBR talking about these books and people like your listeners commenting on it. I would not have a career, not food on the table for my children if not for that. So I'm eternally grateful for the stuff you've done for me for a decade.
Oh. No, I mean, I can only take about 4 years credit, but yeah.
Well, I noticed the drop off about 4 years ago. Actually. Putting it together now.
There you go. Thanks again, guys.